So welcome guys, good morning to my online students as well. See, we started with this science and technology, okay, and we are done with energy, okay. So today we're gonna start our second lecture. See, trust me, energy. If you are done with energy, so almost 35% of your syllabus is done. Okay, so remaining 65% we're gonna do. Okay, so in that process I'm starting your chapter with space technology. See, today I won't tell you much. Okay, I'll keep the lecture simple, but today there are some basics that you need to learn here. Okay, so if you can learn these basics, okay, all the remaining classes will be simple for you, but today is quite important. Okay, so when I talk about space technology, first tell me what is space. Your understanding. What is space? Uh-huh. Ah, tell me, no worries. Space where no gravity exists. Okay, first one. Any other definitions for this? No gravity exists. Yes? Okay. Second one. Any other? अरे भाई बचपन बचपन से सुनते आ रहे हैं ना, like from the childhood we are listening about the space. What is space? Huh? Okay, fine. See, let me tell you the answers which you have told is wrong. Okay, so let me tell you something. See, he told me something about the space where no gravity exists. Okay, tell me something. Where will launch the satellites? In the space only? Yes, in the orbit only. If gravity doesn't exist, then how they'll rotate in the orbit? Simple thing. So in the space, for sure there will be gravity is there. Okay, then how will define space? See, this is Earth. Okay, so we'll travel above till 100 kilometers, till 100 kilometers. Then there will be something called, there will be something called Karman line. There will be something called Karman line. Okay, so below this we'll call generally as atmosphere. Above this we'll call this as space. Okay, so your space definition is simple now. Okay, so above Earth's surface, okay, at a height of 100 kilometers there is a layer called Karman layer. Anything which is above Karman layer is nothing but your space. Okay, and this is the wrong definition. In the space also will have gravity. That's the reason we'll send satellites into the gravity. Fine, so write the definition of space first. Above 100 kilometers from the Earth's surface, above 100 kilometers from the Earth's surface, above 100 kilometers from the Earth's surface, we'll find Karman line. We'll find Karman line. We'll find Karman line. Next point. Anything which is above Karman line is called as, anything which is above Karman line is called as space. Anything which is above Karman line is called as space. Anything which is above Karman line is called as space. Okay, now the next important terminology in this chapter is space craft. Space craft. Okay, what are spacecrafts? Huh? Write down all those objects that we send in the space. All those objects that we send in the space. All those objects that we send in the space. Example, see, I have taken a stone, okay, and I have thrown it into the atmosphere. It crossed 100 kilometers, okay. Till then it crosses 100 kilometers. Before, it is not called as spacecraft, but after it will be called as spacecraft, okay. Example, satellites, shuttles. Satellites, satellites, shuttles. Satellites, shuttles. Satellites, shuttles. Okay, so till now we have seen two things. One is space. Above 100 kilometers, we have a line called Karman line. Anything which is above Karman line is called as space. If we are sending anything into the space, then those are called as spacecraft. Examples are satellites and shuttles. Now, what is satellite? Now, what is satellite? Tell me your understanding. Tell me what is satellite? Ah, which revolves around the earth in a orbit, which means satellite is something which is associated with orbit. Right now, satellite satellites are associated with the orbit. Satellites are associated with the orbit. Next point, which revolves, which revolves, which revolves around the earth or any other body, or any other body due to gravity, in bracket write down attraction, due to gravity, due to gravity. See, now let me talk about satellite. So satellite is something which is associated with the orbit, okay. So whenever I'll throw the satellite into the space or into the atmosphere, what it will do? Because of the gravity of the earth, it will rotate around, or it will rotate around the earth, okay. So this is called as satellite, okay. But when I say orbit, when I say orbit, we have two types. One is inner orbit, which means till then the gravity of the earth exists. Till then the gravity of earth exists, okay. So which is till 3600 kilometers, till 3600 kilometers. And one more will be there, which is outer orbit, which is till, sorry, above 3600 kilometers. Now, see how smart you became here. Now, I'm sending a satellite for communication purpose. Okay, communications we need in on the earth. So, those satellites will be inner orbit or outer orbit? Inner orbit. Okay, so for defense purpose, I have sent a satellite. That satellite will also be in inner orbit. Okay, now I have sent Chandrayaan. That satellite will be in outer orbit, because that the satellite purpose is not to study the Earth's surface. In fact, it is about to study the moon surface. So it will be there in outer orbit. Okay. Similarly, this mission Mangalyaan, that is also outer orbit. So in future, if you are going to send anything to study about the surface of the sun, then also it will be coming under outer orbit. So all the satellites which you are using for communication purpose, which you are using for defense purpose, these all orbits will be there in the inner orbit. Okay, so like your earth gravity will capture them. Because of the earth gravity, what they'll do is they'll rotate around the earth, they'll make the revolutions. Okay, once you have to study moon, so we have to cross this inner orbit, we have to cross this inner orbit. Let's say this is 3600. Okay, we have to cross this inner orbit, and then we have to go to moon. There again, moon will also have gravity. So in the moons, with the help of moon gravity, they will attach to a orbit, and there it will make the rotations. Okay, that's how it will study the moon surface. Now read the definition of this satellite associated with the orbit. Okay, because of, I have told you earth or any other object. So here any other object is your moon, maybe your Mars, maybe your sun, anything. Okay, but the thing here is, once you are crossing this 3600, this will become outer orbit, then you will enter into the inner orbit of moon. Okay, if you can enter into the inner orbit of the moon, then that is your Chandrayaan. Okay, so inner orbit of moon here means outer orbit of earth, that will become inner orbit of moon. Okay, understood? Now write on this. Keep note point, keep a note point. Satellites are not reusable. Satellites are not reusable. Satellites are not reusable. See, I have sent a satellite into the atmosphere or into the space. Okay, it will serve my purpose for 2 3 years, then we won't get that satellite onto the earth again, we'll leave them aside there itself. Okay, and these things are called as, after the uses, these things are called as space debris. After the uses, these things are called as space debris or space junk. Space debris or space junk. Nothing but, see, in the nuclear energy, I have told you, after on one side we are getting nuclear energy, on the other side we are getting nuclear wastage. Similarly, on the one side, because of the satellites, for 2 3 years we'll get the data transfer. Later what happens is they'll become the space debris or space junk. Okay, so what is the first satellite that we have launched? Right down, Aryabhat, right down. First satellite launched by India is Aryabhat. Aryabhat. On which date? 19th April 1975. April 1975. Okay. So simple. Till now we have seen definition of space. Anything which is above Karman layer is nothing but your space. Okay. So anything which we are sending into the space is nothing but space craft. Examples we have seen two. One is satellite. Second one is shuttle. Satellite means associated with orbit or gravity of Earth or any other body. Okay, that any other body may be sun or moon or anything. Okay, and then what I've told you, orbits are not reusable. Sorry, satellites are not reusable. And the first satellite we have launched is Aryabhat, which is on 19th April 1975. Okay, now see shuttle. Keep a heading as shuttle. See, you heard of this astronauts? Yes. The vehicles which will carry astronauts to the space is nothing but shuttle. Okay. So shuttle is a space delivery system. Space delivery system. Space delivery system. And see, if we'll send these astronauts through the satellites, okay, then what happens is we can send, but I have told you satellites are not reusable, which means we won't get the satellites again back to the earth surface. So which means if we are sending astronauts through satellites, then they will be staying there forever, they won't be coming down back. Yes, that's the reason we won't send them through satellites, we'll send them through shuttle, which means these are reusable, because once we'll send them, we'll get them back again. Okay, again this vehicle will do some repair works and we'll send them again. Okay, so write down reusable. Reusable. Okay, so obviously if we are sending astronauts through this shuttle, then obviously it will have some life supporting system in the earth, in the atmosphere we have life supporting system, but after certain kilometers we won't have this life supporting system, but we are sending them to the space above Karman layer. Obviously there won't be oxygen there, food will not be there, so obviously the shuttle will be will be having life supporting system. It contains, it contains, it contains life supporting system. It contains life supporting system. It contains life supporting system. Okay, so in this shuttle they'll do extra vehicular activities. Extra vehicular activities. They'll do extra vehicular activities, or simply we'll call them as space work. Space work. Okay, understood? So what is this EVA? What is this EVA? See, if we are sending someone to the space, it is not the case like, I mean, we are sending them from the windows, they'll look at the space and they'll come down. No, this is not the scenario. They'll come out and they'll walk. Okay. This walking in general, people will call this as space walking. Okay. In technical terms, we'll call it as extravehicular activities and space work or space walk in layman terms. Okay, so in technical terms we'll call it as EVA. Okay, so EVAs again are of two types. EVA again are of two types. One is tethered, one is tethered, and second one is untethered. What is tethered? Hmm? See, in the movies you might have watched. See, let's say this is a vehicle. Okay, this is a vehicle. Okay, from the vehicle, some astronaut is coming out. Okay, while coming out, if he has a attachment to him, then this is called as tethered, which means here body is still attached to the shuttle. Okay, untethered means here this guy he'll come out. Okay, and he is independent. He is independent, which means he is not attached to the shuttle. If he is attached to the shuttle, then it is called as tethered. If he is not attached to the shuttle and he is independently doing the spacewalking, then it is called as untethered. So have you ever seen this space movies on any space technology? Antariksh. Okay, Antariksh, there will be a attachment to him to the vehicle. So this is tethered. I mean, there is another movie which is Gravity. Have you seen this? In the Gravity, they are highly advanced. So what they'll be using is they'll use this untethered technology. So write down like this, tethered, and write down tethered. Body connected through the shuttle. Body connected through the shuttle. Body connected through the shuttle. Here, body not connected through the shuttle and it is independent. And it is independent. Okay, so here your diagram will be done. Understood this one? Okay, so this is shuttle. So shuttle means nothing but see, this is a space delivery system. Okay, this is reusable because we have to get them back again onto the surface, and it will have a life supporting system and they'll do spacewalk. Okay, and the spacewalk technical terminology is nothing but extra vehicular activities. Okay, and this EVA, it is further two types, tethered and untethered. Tethered means the body is still attached to the shuttle. Here they will be independent. Here they will be independent. Okay, fine. Next terminology, rocket. Now tell me how many of you know rocket? I'm sure that nobody knows this rocket concept. Does anyone? Hmm? Tell me no worries. I mean, see, I have told you for so many times, make mistakes. And this mistakes will learn you something, will teach you something. Okay? Through the mistakes only we can learn something, right? Tell me, what is rocket? Say in your, I mean, you will have an idea, right? What is rocket? Huh? Mm. Mm. See, we have our cars and bikes. Okay? In the car and bike, we'll be using something called engine. And in the electrical vehicles, we'll use something called motor. Okay? So this engine or motor is nothing but your rocket. This engine or motor is nothing but your rocket. Okay, so write down. Motor or engine is nothing but rocket. Motor or engine is nothing but rocket. Motor or engine is nothing but rocket. Motor or engine is nothing but a rocket. Okay, so this rocket has two uses. Two uses. So obviously nuclear energy is also having two uses. One is constructive, second one is destructive. Constructive means we can produce electricity. Destructive means we can produce atom bombs, hydrogen bombs. Yes. Similarly, this rocket is also having two uses. One is constructive, second one is destructive. Constructive use is launching vehicles or else launch vehicles. Keep it as simple. Launch vehicles. So this motor will give to a launch vehicle. Using this motor, it will enter into the space. So this is constructive. There, either it will carry some astronauts or either it will carry some satellites. If they are carrying astronauts, they'll do some research over there and they'll get the data. If they are carrying satellites, these satellites will read the Earth's surface or the surface where it has sent and it will send the data. So these two data are important for us. So this is constructive work of rocket. Yes. So using launch vehicles, what can we do? Space. We can send spacecrafts. Spacecrafts means shuttles or satellites, both. Okay. What is the destructive purpose? Missiles. In the missiles also will have a rocket. Using the rocket only, it will travel from one place to another. See, the range of missile generally it is around 300 kilometers. To carry 300 kilometers, it need obviously rocket. So using rocket only, it will carry 300 kilometers. Okay. So in the missiles also will use them as a war head. As a war head. Okay, so these are some basics that we need to know. Okay, so by now you have got some clarity. Rocket is not the launch vehicle. Generally in India we'll think like launch vehicle is nothing but rocket. Whenever people are sending a launch vehicle, we'll call them as rocket is going towards moon and it is launching a satellite over there. But rocket, generally it will boost up the launch vehicle to travel. It will give that energy to travel. This is rocket. Okay, and the remaining part everything is called as launch vehicle. And one more application of rocket is missiles. Okay, understood? So simple. So we have seen some basics. What are those basics? First we have gone with the definition of space. Space means Karman layer 100 kilometers. Anything which is above Karman layer is nothing but your space. And then I have told you about space. Crafts means toys. If toys are there in the space, then it is called as spacecraft. Okay, example are satellites and shuttles. And then we have seen satellite. And then we have seen satellite. Okay, satellite means this is associated with orbit or gravity of Earth or any other object. Okay, this is not reusable. India has sent his first satellite, which is Aryabhat, on 19th April 1975. And then we have seen about shuttle. Okay, shuttle means which is the launching. Okay, we'll launch using the shuttle, we'll launch something into the space. Okay, and second thing is which is reusable. Okay, and in this we'll do some extra vehicular activities. Okay, in layman terms we'll call this as space work or space walk. Okay, and then I have told you about rocket. Rocket is nothing but engine or motor. Engine or motor. And then I have told you about launch vehicle. Launch vehicle. Launch vehicle means the vehicle which we'll use to carry these two things. Okay, you name it, astronauts or sorry, these two things, astronauts or satellites. Okay, so if the same rockets which we are using, if we are using in missiles, okay, for warheads, then it is called as missiles. So these are all the terminologies which we have learned now. So trust me guys, since childhood you'll think like these terminologies you know, but after this class you realize that you don't know. Okay, fine. Keep a heading as orbits. Now we'll see what is orbit and all. Orbit. Orbits. Okay. Right now, different parameters for study of orbit. Different parameters for study of orbit. Different parameters for study of orbit. Okay. Distance. Those different parameters are, one is distance and second one is, okay, distance. I think everybody knows this. Leo, low Earth orbit. Meo, medium, medium Earth orbit. Geo, huh? Geostationary Earth orbit. Heo, high, high Earth orbit. So based on distance, we have divided the orbits into 4 times. Okay, Leo, Meo, Geo, Heo. Okay, done. Now based on the position, based on the position, polar, incline or transitional and equatorial. And equatorial. Done. Okay, now see what are all these things. See, Leo, low Earth orbit. Okay, so low Earth orbit is nothing but if you are sending any satellite, okay, ranging between 50 kilometers to 2000 kilometers, 50 kilometers to 2000 kilometers. Then we'll say this orbit is nothing but low Earth orbit. See, in the news, yeah, I mean, this Starlink, OneWeb, you're reading about these things in the news, and there it will be written as it is the satellites are placed in the low Earth orbit, which means one thing is clear, that is placed somewhere between 50 kilometers to 2000 kilometers. Okay, so what is this OneWeb? What is the Starlink project? I'll tell you. See, these are just for your internet purpose. Okay, so now we are using optic fiber. In future we are going to use satellites directly, and that satellites will be placed in low Earth orbit. Those projects are called as Starlink project and OneWeb project. Okay, fine. So low Earth orbit means 50 kilometers to 2000 kilometers. Okay, next, MEO. MEO means, okay, if I am placing a satellite between 5000 kilometers to 20,000 kilometers, then it is called as MEO, medium Earth orbit. If I'm placing a satellite between 5000 kilometers to 20,000 kilometers, then it is called as MEO. Okay, fine. Next, GEO. Geostationary Earth orbit. If I'm placing satellites somewhere at 3600, sorry, 36,000 kilometers, 36,000 kilometers, then it is called as geostationary Earth orbit. Okay, anything which is above 3600 kilometers is nothing but high Earth orbit or HEO. So above 3000, sorry, 36,000 kilometers, above 36,000 kilometers. Any doubts here? Sure? Pakka? Huh? Huh? We are not sending satellites between 2000 to 3000, 5000, which means between this 3000 kilometers, we are not sending anything. And here also, from 20,000, above 20,000 and below 36,000, we are not sending anything. Why? See, there are people who made so many experiments. Okay, they have sent satellites in this area range. Okay, so where what's happening is the satellite is attached to the Earth and it is rotating in the orbit. But the thing here is it is not sending any signals. Okay, why will send the satellites? It will read the Earth surface and it will send the data again back to the Earth surface. But here what happens is still 2000 kilometers, it is sending the data. Okay, why? I'll tell you later. Okay, so here you need to observe this much, that anything which is between 2000 and 5000, you won't get the signals. Okay, so this is just like a toy. This is not for any use. But for toy, we cannot invest 1000 crores, 2000 crores. Yes, that's the reason here we won't send any satellites and we won't name them any orbit. Similarly, here also, even if we are sending anything, this is for no use. We won't get the signals, we won't get the data. That's the reason generally people will not send any satellites here. So we won't name this orbit. Okay, understood? Still any doubts? Yes, these three are inner orbits. So if you want to read about the Earth's surface, then your satellite will be placed in LEO, MEO, GEO. If you want to read about moon surface, sun, Mars, any other planet, then you will place your satellite here in the HEO. Okay, so this is outer orbit. Outer orbit. See, today I am going very slow because these are conceptual things. Trust me, this class, if you can understand, then space technology will be a piece of cake for you. Understood? So based on the distance, we have read the things, and based on the distance, we have 4 types of orbits. I mean, further divided into so many types, but basically 4 types. One is low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, geostationary Earth orbit, and the fourth one is high Earth orbit. So anything, if we are placing between 50 to 2000, it is called as low LEO. 5000 to 20,000, it is called as MEO. 36,000, it is GEO, and above 36,000 it is HEO. Fine? Yes? Now based on the position, see. Based on the position, we have polar, inclined, and equatorial. Okay? Now, okay, let me explain you this. This is Earth. This is Earth. So in the Earth, we'll have poles, we'll have poles, and we'll have equator. Okay. So now see the names here. First one, polar, equatorial, inclined. So now your concept is quite simple. Okay. If I have placed a satellite, okay, and if the satellite is rotating in the orbit which is covering polar region, which is covering polar region, then that orbit is called as polar orbit. If I'm sending a satellite, okay, and this is covering equatorial region, equator, then this is called as, and if I'm sending a satellite, okay, which is covering anything like this or like this or like, I mean, somewhere between poles and equator, then it is called as inclined or transitional. Okay, so inclined or transitional. Okay, okay, there write down polar hyphen write down, polar hyphen write down. It covers polar regions. It covers polar regions. Second one, incline or transitional, it covers the regions between polar and equatorial regions. It covers between polar and equatorial regions. It covers between polar and equatorial regions. Equatorial means it covers equatorial regions. It covers equatorial regions. It covers equatorial regions. It covers equatorial regions. Okay, fine. Understood this one? Okay, now let me tell you something. Okay, see, if you want to place polar satellites, I mean, if you want to cover polar regions, the satellites must be placed in the low Earth orbit. Okay, and if you want to place this incline or transitional satellites, those things must be placed in the medium Earth orbit. And if you want to place equatorial, if you want to cover equatorial region, then those satellites must be placed in the geo. Okay, which means somewhere between 50 and 2000. 2000. This area will cover polar regions. This area will cover polar regions. So these are combinations, guys. If something is Leo, then it must be polar region. If something is MEO, then it must be transitional. If something is GEO, then it must be equatorial. If something is here, then it must be nothing, because it is not covering the Earth's surface. I have told you it is outer. Understood? So write down. Leo, polar, Mio, inclined, or transitional. See, why I'm making you to note down all these things again is you will be aware of this terminologies. Okay, fine. And then geo, equatorial. I mean, these applications, slowly you'll get to know everything. Which satellite will come under which orbit, okay, and which and it will cover which region, everything you'll know. Okay, we are starting with basics, so wait for some time. You'll get to know everything. Okay, now write down a previous mains question UPSC's. Why satellites will not fall down? Why satellites will not fall down to the surface of Earth? To the surface of Earth. Why satellites will not fall down to the surface of Earth? Why satellites will not fall down to the surface of Earth? Okay, any idea? Hmm? It is linked with speed. Okay, so generally Earth is known for its gravity. Okay, if anything, if we are placing here or here or here, then obviously it will pull. Okay, after 3600 kilometers, it won't will pull, because the pull will be there till 3600 kilometers. After 36,000. Okay, so after 36,000, anyways, we don't have this gravitational pull, but before we'll be having this gravitational pull. But still, the satellites will rotate around the Earth, okay, instead of falling down. So now we'll see this reason. See, what happens here is, see, let's say this is Earth, okay, and this is Leo, and this is Mio, and this is Geo. And here we are not seeing about this here, because here anyways there will not be any gravitational pull. So here we'll see Leo, Mio, and Geo. Let's say I have placed an object at 50 kilometers. Okay, and here I have kept a satellite at 5,000. Okay, and here I have kept at 36,000. Okay, now generally what happens here is, see, let's say this is Earth, okay, and there is a building which is almost 50 kilometers height. How much? 50 kilometers. 50 kilometers. Okay, now on top of that I'm standing with a stone. Okay, now what I have done is I have thrown the stone with the speed of around 3 kilometer per second. Okay, then it will travel to a distance and it will fall down on the Earth. Okay, and then here you will be having inertia. Okay, and here you'll have gravity. Here you will have gravity. Okay, now I have increased the speed to around 6 kilometer per second. Okay, now what has happened is it has traveled to some more distance and then it was fall down. Okay, here gravity is acting and here it is inertia is acting. Okay, now I tried my level best and I threw the stone at a speed of 7.9 kmph. 7.9 kilometer per second. Now what happens is this inertia will be balanced with the gravity, okay, and it will successfully maintains acceleration of 7.9 meter per second square. That's how at a speed. Okay. So this will rotate something like this. Now, being a scientist, being a ISRO scientist, what you will do is at what height we are sending the satellite. There, what is the necessary acceleration you will find. There, what is the necessary acceleration you'll find. Okay. So this is the scenario. See, here it is at 50 kilometers. What happens here is here it is the speed must be 7.9 kilometer per second. 7.9 kilometer per second. Now tell me whether I have this is point A, point B, and point C. Now tell me, here also gravitational pull will be there. Here also gravitational pull will be there. Now the gravitational pull will be maximum at A or C? A or C? See, you are close to a magnet. Okay. And one point is far away from the magnet. Okay. On which point the gravitational pull will be more? The one which is nearer. Okay. So here the gravitational pull is max. Okay. Here it is max and here it is minimum. Here it is minimum. Now tell me, here I need 7.9 kilometer per second speed to rotate in an orbit. Now here, what speed I need? Maximum or minimum? Which means above 7.9 or below 7.9? Above 7.9. Yes? Yes? See, one side you are traveling on a bike. Okay? On the other side, you are feeling the resistance, which means the wind flow is high. Okay? Now your speed will be less or more? Less. Yes? On the other side, there is no resistance for you. No, there is no friction for you. And the roads are also sliding, which means no friction at all. At that point of time, your speed will be more. Yes? So here, there is more resistance. So you need more speed. Then only you can cover the orbit. Here there is less resistance. So less speed will be enough. Okay. So here you need somewhere around 3 kilometer per second speed. Okay. Draw the diagram. Okay, now write down. Earth's gravity pulls. Earth's gravity pulls objects, including satellites, towards its surface. Earth's gravity pulls objects, including satellites, towards its surface. Towards its surface. Earth's gravity pulls objects, including satellites, towards its surface. Therefore, while launching the satellites, while launching the satellites, they are given a high speed. They are given a high speed. They are given a high speed that balances gravity. That balances gravity. That balances gravity. Next point. Their forward motion keeps their forward motion keeps them moving in a curved path. Their forward motion keeps them moving in a curved path around the earth instead of falling. 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 So this is why the satellites will not fall. Okay. Now let's say I'm a ISRO scientist. Okay. Now I have sent somewhere around 70 kilometers. Okay. And I have given a wrong calculation. I have sent at a speed of 5 kilometer per second. Now what will happen is it will rotate for a time. Okay. And then it will fall down. And then it is fall down. And this fall down is called as satellite fall. Satellite fall that you generally read in the newspapers. Okay. Satellite falls are nothing but whenever the exact speed is not calculated by the scientists and still they are allowing them to enter into the space, then there will be an incident happens which is called as satellite fall. Okay. Done. Now write down one more thing. See, now here, okay, there is a satellite which is going at a speed of 7.9 kilometer per second. Okay. And it has to cover a orbit. It has to cover a orbit. And here there is one more satellite which is going at a speed of 3 kilometers per second. And it also has to cover the orbit. Now tell me which one will take less time. On one side, it has maximum speed and less distance to cover. On the other side, it has minimum speed and more distance to cover. So which one will take more time? Huh? C. C. There is a point for that. C. Okay. C will take less time. Obviously, C. Let's say here the length will be around 100 kilometers. Okay. Here the length will be around 30 kilometers only. Okay. And here the speed is 7.9 kilometer per second. And here the speed is 3 kilometer per second. So to cover 8 3 is 24 around, it will take 4 seconds with this speed. Okay. So in a second, it is covering 8 kilometers, guys. So if I'll close my eyes and if I'll open, it will cover 8 kilometers. So in this speed, it will take merely 4 seconds. And here, if I'm closing my eyes and if I'm opening my eyes, in a meanwhile time, it is covering 3 kilometers, which means to cover 33.3 seconds it will take. So which one is taking more time? This one. Yes. So now with this knowledge, write down a table. Distance, speed, and this speed generally called as orbital speed. Orbital speed. And this is orbital period. Orbital period. Okay. So in low Earth orbit, if I'm placing a satellite at 50 kilometers, then the speed must be 7.9 kilometer per second, and it will take 88 minutes. 88 minutes to cover one orbit. To cover one orbit. Okay. So in between, I mean, the kilometers are not mandatory for UPSC. Okay. So we'll see 3,600 kilometers per second. 36,000. Okay. At 36,000 kilometers, we need to maintain 3 kilometer per second. And you know, exactly the orbital is 24 hours. The orbital period is 24 hours. Okay. Which means, see, here my point is, okay. So see this. If I'm placing a satellite here, okay, after 88 minutes, if this is 50 kilometers, after 88 minutes, this will cover the distance and it will come to the same position again. After every 88 minutes. Okay. So if I'm placing my satellite here, then it will take exactly 24 hours. How much? 24 hours. So after every 24 hours, you will see the satellite here. Understood? So if I'm launching my satellite at 50 kmph, sorry, 50 kilometers, then for every 88 minutes, the satellite position will be same. If I'm launching at equatorial region at 3,600, 36,000 kilometers, then for every 24 hours, I can see the satellite at the same place. Okay? Understood? Now, last topic of the day, list of orbits. Wait. List of orbits. Okay? And then satellites. List of orbits and then satellites. Okay, this I'll tell you the names today. Concepts slowly you'll understand. Okay, first one, polar orbit. Polar synchronous orbit. Polar orbit and polar synchronous orbit. Okay, third one is GPS orbit. GPS orbit. Okay, fourth one is geo. Geo means geostationary earth orbit. Okay, then geosynchronous orbit. Geosynchronous orbit. And then geosynchronous transfer orbit. Transfer orbit. Transfer orbit. Okay, write down all these things. Okay, next, satellites, experimental satellites. Okay, so universal satellites, universal satellites. Okay, and then remote sensing satellites, and then earth observation satellite. Earth observation satellite. Okay, and then INSAT or Okay. These are just names only, the concepts you'll understand in future. Okay. These are just experimental satellites. So here we are not going to read about this. And this also before we used to use. Okay. Now we are not using. So let's keep them aside. Remaining, see, polar orbits, polar synchronous orbit, remote sensing and Earth observation satellites. If you are sending a satellite for remote sensing or for Earth observation, then you'll place the satellites generally, normally, basically, mostly in these orbits. Okay, so UPSC will play with these terms. Okay, so in previous year question they have given generally Earth observation satellites will be placed in polar orbit. Yes, generally Earth observation satellites will be placed in polar orbits. But in the very next year, he has asked a question, remote sensing orbits are placed only in polar synchronous orbit. And the statement will be wrong. Okay. And my question is, remote sensing, okay, satellites, they'll place only in polar orbit and polar synchronous orbit. Now your answer will be no. Okay, so UPSC will play with these terms. If he'll give you generally, normally, basically, mostly, then the statement will be correct. If he's saying something like, I mean, only in polar orbit, only in polar synchronous orbit, or only in polar and polar synchronous orbit, then your answer will be, statement will be wrong. Okay, and then INSAT and GSAT, India satellite and geosynchronous satellite. So these things are will be placed in these generally, normally, basically, mostly. Okay. Again, these satellites and these orbits names I have given only for a purpose. One, to explain the statement, and second one is I want you to be well aware of these names. Okay, that's the reason. Concepts we'll see further. Okay, fine, done. So see, in today's class, what we have learned is one, we started with the definition of space. So I have already told you in today's class we are not going to learn anything. We'll learn the things which we already know. One is space. Anything which is above Karman layer, 100 kilometers above the Earth's surface is called as space. If you are sending anything into the space, it is called as spacecraft. Example will be satellites and shuttles. Okay, so and then I have told you satellites are associated with orbits. Okay, and 19th April 1975, Aryabhatta. Aryabhatta. Okay, first Indian satellite. And then I have told you about, see, this also orbit, shuttle. Okay, and then I have told you about shuttle. Shuttle means anything which launches the objects into the space. Okay, so it has one extra thing which is extra vehicular activities, generally we'll call them as spacewalking. Okay, and this is further divided into two types, tethered, untethered. And then I have told you about, what I've told you about, rocket. Rocket means motor or engine. And then I have told you about launch vehicle. Launch vehicle means using motor will launch something into the space, and this is called as launch vehicle. And then I have told you about missiles. So for the warhead we'll use the rocket, and then we'll call it as missile. And then I have told you about orbit. Okay, orbits will be inner, outer. Inner means below 36,000. Okay, so change the number, below 36,000 and above 36,000. Okay, and then see, first satellite, these things already we have seen. Shuttle. Okay, so based on distance we'll read this orbits, and based on position also we'll read the orbits. Based on distance, we have 4 types: LEO, MEO, GEO, and HEO. Okay, LEO means 50 to 2000 kilometers, and here it is 5000 to, and here it is somewhere around 36,000, and this is above 36,000. And based on the positions also we have read the orbits. Okay, if it is covering polar region, then this is called as polar, and if it is covering equatorial, then it is equatorial. If it is covering somewhere between polar and equatorial region, then it is called as incline or transitional. Okay, so generally polar is nothing but it will be there in the LEO only, incline will be there in MEO, and equatorial will be there in GEO. Okay, so these things we have read. And then I have told you why satellites will not fall on the Earth's surface. Okay, so it needs speed. Okay, to maintain a necessary acceleration. If it can maintain necessary acceleration, it will balance the what? It will balance gravity, and it will keep maintaining itself in the orbit. Okay, so this is your mains previous year question. And then I have told you, see, like close to the earth surface we need maximum speed, and it will take less time to cover the orbit. And like moving like away from the earth, which means it needs less speed, and it will take more time to cover the earth surface. And then I have told you some orbits and some satellites. Okay, this is basically for your statement type of questions. Okay, remaining things will cover in the tomorrow's class. Chalo then, bye for today.